Okay, man, are you ready to go?
I'm ready to go. Now, come on, now crank this motherfucker up.
Break it down like this.
Hello, Internet. Gino, that Pinguino Rieko here again with another episode of Deep Listens. And today, it's been a long time coming, y'all. I've been waiting 16 years for this game to come out. It's time, finally, for us to do the sequel to our second episode, which was on Psychonauts. Psychonauts 2 came out, and we're talking about Psychonauts 2 today. So joining me to talk about Psychonauts 2, as always, Pete Busby. Hello, Pete.
Hey, what's going on? I can't sound as excited as Gino is. I don't think anyone can.
No.
But no one can. But the first game was good. The second one is also good, although I think it is mostly an allegory for the dangers of LSD. So
Yeah.
That's my interpretation. Get it out of the way now. In honor of this joyous occasion, though, I have the rare, actually fun fact.
What?
I promise there are no sinister undertones to this one. This is from one of the best websites on the internet, lemur.duke.edu. They have their own subdomain just for lemurs. And this is about how male lemurs, have stink fights. So I'll just read the paragraph. A stink fight begins when two male lemurs face off and pull their tails through their two shoulder stink glands.
Oh,
They have
no.
multiple stink glands, by the way. Then wave or flick their tails at each other to waft their, quote, fragrance towards their rival. Stink fights last until one lemur backs off and can be resolved fairly quickly, but these smelly standoffs have also been reported to last up to an hour. So I just think there's something adorable about picturing two lemurs stink fighting for an hour over who gets to mate with that cute lady lemur over there.
So it's like shit talking, but even somehow worse.
Yeah, but with
Or better.
stink.
You know,
They also, lemur.duke.edu spends a lot of time describing the relative viscosity of the liquids various stink glands produce.
I sure do hate that.
that other voice you hear is M. Palladino. Hello, M.
Hello. I learn a lot about this animal kingdom on this video game podcast. A lot of things I don't want to know, and I feel like that was one of them.
No, if you learn anything from this podcast, it's that orcas kill for fun and that lemurs have stink gland fights.
Yes. On my front, I turned 30 last week, and I was deeply fearful of it, and now I'm here.
Woo! Welcome to the club.
Welcome to the gang.
Thanks. Woohoo. I didn't know I would make it this far, but here I am. Thank you.
There were doubters and haters, and now here you are.
If I could play Turning 30 by Burnham right now, I would.
That other voice you hear is a special guest because we are playing a game that has psychology stuff, and I know a psychology person. So
Thanks.
that is my sister, Noelle Greco. Hello, Noelle. Soon to be doctor.
No. Only masters so far. Anyways, moving on. Hi, everyone. Also, fun fact about LSD. It is actually used in some psychology treatment and potentially is being sought after to be used in trauma research. So maybe LSD is not the enemy. Maybe it is a friend. Who's to say?
Good. That you know what? Finally, the squares were wrong. And we're gonna find out now.
Some of my cohort is very into it, so I've heard a bit about it, but it's cool. I recommend looking into it.
Excellent. So before we go further into LSD and Psychonauts 2, our normal housekeeping, you can get in touch with the show at DeepListensPod on Twitter, deeplistens.libsyn.com. We have our comment sections and deeplistenspodcast@gmail.com. You can send in emails and feedback of all sorts. And you can also support the show on patreon.com/deeplistens. And if you were to do so, you would gain access to our community Discord, where you can chat with the hosts, you can give us suggestions of things to do, and you can also, send us questions, any sort of thing. And if you were to do so, you might end up on the Discord report.
The Discord report. Boop-a-doop-a-doop-a-doop-a-doop. This week on the Discord report,
well, we got a question.
Discord. We did
from host of the Off the Deep Ends and co-host of the Off the Deep End and our Final Fantasy podcast, ZP. Pete has a question for you. He has a question for you, Pete. Is this true? Communism is when your boss orders you to take a vaccine so you can keep working through a global pandemic so that the company can make higher profits. The more profits they make, the more communist it is. Karl Marx, inventor of vaccines, Greens voter. Is this true?
As the resident expert on communism, I guess socialism, whatever, I would say Marxism, actually. No. Karl, in all 3,000 pages of Das Kapital, never mentions vaccines. If you wanted to make an argument it was fascist, you might be closer, but I still think it would be dumb. So don't do that either.
That's a good call. Okay, good. I'm glad we have the communism knower on the podcast to tell us whether these quotes are... Look, you can't source quotes just by putting a person's name after the quote. That's not how it works, unfortunately.
Don't you know everything on the internet is true? That's a quote from Abraham Lincoln.
Wow.
The vampire hunter?
Yes, exactly. See, Pete knows.
And there is no moment where I am not sad about the fact that when I was presented with Pinocchio Vampire Hunter at the comic book store we used to work at, I did not purchase it.
Ooh.
You should have. It's pretty good.
He must lie so that we may live.
Yeah.
Is that actually the tagline?
If it wasn't the tagline, it should be.
If not, it should be. Anyway, what else is going on?
We got a lot of Parappa the Rapper meme
memes.
stuff going on.
That's seeing a resurgence for some reason.
Because we're old. That's why.
Yep. Eurovision was happening, I guess.
Oh, God.
I didn't watch anything about it, so I could not speak to that. But bringing up old fan favorites from past years. And you guys are doing Final Fantasy VI on the Final Fantasy podcast.
That is true. I need to start playing that. We're finally playing a good one, y'all.
Yeah, it's a return to the mainline Final Fantasies after so long of not doing that.
After, I think a literal year of, the most recent mainline game we played being 11.
Oh, God. Dark times.
Yes. Well, we played 7 Remake. Every time it rolls around to me, I pick a real game that's not hateful, and then it goes through Jeff and ZP, and they're just like, what if we played this game that came out at Taco Bell that you could get? It was technically a Final Fantasy promotion. Why don't we play that?
You scoff at corporate tie-ins, but the Chex Doom skin, one of the best games I've ever played.
Oh, you mean Chex Quest?
Of course I mean Chex Quest.
I love that game. That game's so good. It came with my... They got me to buy a box of Chex. That's how good it was. Well, the only other thing that was going on in the Discord, I was on Giant Bomb this week.
Yeah.
I was on a video with one Matthew Rory taking a look at Innistrad Midnight Hunt, and we won on the video. We actually did not lose a game, which was nice. And
wow.
I'm still not playing Magic very much, but I am still informed. And it looks like the game's getting better because most of the bad cards from 2019 are gone. They rotated, so they can't hurt us anymore.
Now they can only make future mistakes.
Yes.
Which, if you follow the Discord, we talk about almost all of them. Because there are many.
Yep, it's definitely bleak, but at the very least, the game now, maybe standard, won't be actively miserable. We'll see. Hey, who knows? So without further ado, it's time now for my obsession of the week, and I feel like this time my obsession should actually just be a video game. I've been playing World Flipper, which
Yay.
it's a gacha game.
Boo.
It's a gacha pinball game where
Yay?
the anime characters that you win in the gacha are your pinballs. You can have up to 3. They kind of move like a snake in Snake when you hit them off the bumpers and the flippers. And you get 3 characters to form your party. It's an RPG where the gameplay and the combat is pinball. It's not terrible.
It sounds pretty cool, honestly.
Yeah, it's free. You know, the only thing it costs you is a little bit of your soul. They give you a lot of free currency right now because they just started the game like 2 weeks ago. It's got surprisingly deep character building and team comp, strategy. The anime ladies are in here, and they are of varying quality in the game.
Are they, like, when you say anime ladies, am I picturing them correctly?
Some of them not. It's a gacha game. You got to have your lady ninja, and then your pirate lady, and then your furry lady, and then, your lady who's very, very small and looks like she's 10, but actually she's 3,000.
Oh, classic. All right, Gino, I'm going to download this game, and I'm going to judge you for it.
That's fair. It's pretty fun. I ran into the point where you need to like grind experience and level up like crafting items, and then I realized that it's actually the game is better at auto playing than I am at playing it, and that's kind of a bummer. So now it's kind of like I'm mining Bitcoin on my phone, but instead it's fucking weird gems for this Japanese or Korean gacha game. But it's pretty good. I don't know. It's not as good as Opera Omnia though.
But what gacha can be, really?
That's true.
Gino, I don't think you should be playing it while we're on here.
That's the beauty of it. I can start the game and then it plays itself.
Huh.
Okay.
Silly me.
Could I do an obsession?
Yes, go for it.
I don't know if you guys have listened to Montero yet.
Not yet, but I saw it advertised on Spotify.
Yeah, I have listened to it about 20 times, and it released 3 days ago now.
Ooh.
It is
What
very
is Montero?
good. Lil Nas X's new album.
I see.
I think his debut album, actually.
Yeah, I
He's
think
had
up until now
singles.
he's only released Old Town Road covers and remixes.
He did
Oh,
Old
yeah.
Town Road. He did a couple of things off of this album, like Montero, the title track,
Mhm.
which had a music video. And the actual full album is quite good. So you should
So-
listen to it. It's only 40 minutes.
Is it still country trap, all of it?
No, it's actually a good mix. Like, there's some rap in there. He does like a song with Miley Cyrus that's kind of poppy. It's like there's like Elton John does piano on one of them,
What?
which I really like. Yeah,
Hi,
like
Lil Nas.
there's a wide range. I think there's something for everybody, and it is quite gay. So if that's
Yeah,
what you're
really?
into. Yeah.
Shocked.
I would assume that Lil Nas X's album, where the debut music video involved him pole dancing and then lap
Pole da-
dancing Satan.
Pole
I think.
dancing into hell and then lap dancing Satan. Yeah.
That one's probably going to be a pretty gay album.
It's a good indicator. But give it a listen.
I will. Thank you for the recommendation. So without further ado, after 16 years of waiting, Psychonauts 2 has arrived. Since I picked it, I'll give you kind of the rundown. Psychonauts 2 takes place after the events of Psychonauts 1 and Psychonauts... Is it Enters the Rhombus of Ruin? Psychonauts in the Rhombus of Ruin, which was a PSVR exclusive that came out in February 21st, 2017. So
Which is
it goes...
just a shortcut for quality. Like, say no more.
Yes. Psychonauts 1 in 2005, then Psychonauts in the Rhombus of Ruin 2017, and then Psychonauts 2, which came out August 25th of this year. So the events of Psychonauts 2 take place following Rhombus of Ruin. So in Rhombus of Ruin, Lily, who is Raz's girlfriend, her father, Truman Zanotto, who is the grand head of the Psychonauts, was kidnapped. His brain was removed by Dr. Lobato, who is the villain or one of the villains from Psychonauts 1. And his brain is gone. We take him back to Psychonauts headquarters, and we find that his brain might have been taken by delusionists, sympathizers with Maligula, who is a powerful psychic who can do hydrokinesis. She can move water with her mind. And they are trying to bring her back to life. She was defeated years ago by the founders of the Psychonauts, including Ford Cruller, who is your camp counselor / buddy from the first game. And so you are on a mission to stop the delusionists. And this is also the first time we get to see Psychonauts headquarters. The first game's all in a summer camp, and the second game is in a jet, and then in the Rhombus of Ruin, which is like a secret base location. So, M, I believe you had questions about Psychonauts 1 because you have not played Psychonauts 1. Is this correct?
I have not played Psychonauts 1. A lot of my questions were summed up in the introduction, which I paid half attention to, and it went really fast. So, what happens in Psychonauts 1? Okay. You are in a summer camp. I know that much.
Okay. So Psychonauts 1, you play as Rasputin Aquato. He is a circus performer. He escapes from his circus family by riding the world's smallest pony, and then he arrives at Psychonauts camp after receiving a pamphlet that maybe we find out where the pamphlet came from in this game. I don't know, y'all.
Gino, can I interject for just a quick moment?
Yep.
Is he an acrobat in order to justify his platforming abilities?
I think so. But also, it's a really good backstory. They made it work.
It justifies his platforming abilities and also justifies why he cannot swim, because there is a curse on his family.
Yeah, they do really good game design constraints in there. They didn't want to come up with swimming, and they didn't want to, they wanted to have trapeze. So there you go. He's a cursed circus performer. So in the first game, he escapes to this psychic summer camp. At first, they're like, you're not allowed here. And then he convinces the camp counselors to let him stay. At first, he's just learning the ropes of, being a psychic. So he's working with Sasha 9, Mia Vodello, and Coach Oleander. They are kind of the three Psychonauts who are running the camp. So they return in Psychonauts 2. You go into their minds, and each of them are kind of tutorial levels. Oleander's the first tutorial, then Mia teaches you how to levitate, and you kind of get a power every level you go into. But after hanging out with those three, people's brains start getting stolen at camp.
Dun, dun, dun.
Like your fellow campers start getting their brains stolen. And so it is up to you to figure out why. Long story short, you eventually find out that Coach Oleander has hired it's not Cagliostro. Caligostro Lobato, the evil dentist, to steal people's brains so that he can put them in an army of psychic death tanks that he'll use to take over the world. And you go into his mind, find out that he has daddy issues and that Raz has daddy issues, and you resolve your daddy issues together, and it gets rid of his need to dominate the world.
Ah, of course. Who couldn't have seen that coming?
So yeah, the main premise of Psychonauts in a lot of cases is if only someone would help folks that are struggling with a mental trauma of some kind, they can, it's not necessarily you get better, but folks can deal with their trauma and put some of their, in some cases, psychoses, in some cases, just repetitive problems to rest. Like you can help folks by going into their head, literally, and fighting their demons. And that's the main premise. All the levels in this game are inside of people's brains.
If only there was a less invasive way of doing that.
Yeah.
If only.
That's what I was going to ask. Are there not therapists or psychologists in the world of Psychonauts? Or is it like all Psychonaut psychic powers?
I believe there are therapists. They haven't been put out of work yet, but they're working on it.
Rude. Very rude.
but it would appear that since these are psychic secret agents, they are mostly going into the minds of people who are of particular note, which raises all sorts of ethical questions, and Psychonauts 2 kind of opens with one of them.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
So yeah, the Psychonauts 2 starts off with Raz going into the mind of Dr. Lobato, who is, the villain. He's one of the villains from Psychonauts 1. And I think the game really jumps off immediately. In Psychonauts 1, like, you get to camp, and then you're running around for a little bit until you want to go to the basic braining, which is the first level. In this game, it just starts you in level 1, basically. So, Pete, what did you think of Lobato's brain?
Lobato's he's a troubled individual. You know what I mean? So it starts off with basically you're in a cubicle, you're a corporate drone, and they try to convince Lobato that he's on a cruise. But in order to get the cruise, he needs to tell you who his boss is. And then he refuses because he doesn't know, really. And then you just chase him throughout these various sort of very creepy mouths with teeth growing out all over the place. He's like, his mind is disheveled in the way you'd expect an insane dentist named Dr. Lobato would be disheveled.
Yeah, there's a lot of office complex and then a tooth just rupturing up through the floor. There's a lot of nerve endings just wiggling around, which is really unsettling. I would say the first level is the most unsettling level in the whole game.
Oh, yeah.
It's definitely up there.
Yep.
Like, something about stray teeth, very creepy.
There's, like, a lot of platforms that are just, like, clusters of teeth. And I think that is now a phobia that I didn't know I had. Because that was there. It's very visceral.
It is, and like the teeth thing, they give a content warning about the teeth at the very beginning of the game as like the big call out. They call out like a bunch of, hey, we're going to talk about psychic trauma because that's what this game's all about. But also, if you don't like teeth, the first level is going to be a bummer for you. Yeah, go ahead.
Just wondering, can you do anything about the teeth in like the settings to turn it off?
There's no turning off teeth.
Okay.
There's no teeth mode. There are a lot of accessibility options though, and I played this game with Noelle, and she does not play platformers as much. So Noelle, how did you find the accessibility options?
What?
So they allow you to turn off damage. They let you turn up the amount of damage you do. They have.
You can just entirely turn off damage.
Yep.
Like you take no damage.
You take no damage, and there's no like penalty, or the game doesn't turn off achievements. There's no anything. It's just like, hey, do you want to turn off damage? Do you want to turn up your damage that you deal? Do you want to make it so that you ignore like hazards on the ground? Like any of the levitation puzzles where you need to levitate because the ground's electrified or it's on fire, you can just walk through that.
I should have did that. Those were so annoying.
Yeah, so you can turn all that off, and there's also a option for color blindness to help folks, because like I remember on the Discord, Reki, one of our Discord members, was saying that as a colorblind person, he was worried about being able to find the figments and stuff like that. There is a colorblind mode that is supposed to help with that. Since they're all mostly just, single colors floating on backgrounds. Noelle, how did you find the game as someone who's not really familiar with platformers with the assists turned on?
It wasn't that bad. I mean, it was still hard to maneuver, but that's probably just me. But it definitely made it more accessible and made me able to actually play it for a little bit until it just got frustrating and was taking too long, and then I made you do it. And then I had to just go online and watch some stuff. But, because I don't have time anymore. But yeah, so it was definitely good to be able to access the game and be able to play, even though I'm not very good at it.
Yeah, and I think there's basically no harm in turning those on. Like, you definitely experience a very different combat system, and some of the platforming challenges get easier. But the platforming's the platforming. Like, the only part that it takes away by turning that on is like ground hazards. If you miss a jump, you start back where you were, but you're not losing health. So, like, you can make that jump as many times as you want. It also opens up opportunities where, like, if you had a jumping puzzle where maybe, you know, something's spinning and there are bombs in your way and you have to jump at the right time to avoid the bombs, you can just go through them. Like, you can ignore some of those platforming challenges, which, you know, if you're not down for that, if you just want to see the story, the game is more than happy to let you do it. And I'm just happy that we've gotten to the point where accessibility options don't turn off achievements.
Yeah, that's very nice of them. Not that, you know, I'm ever achievement hunting or anything, but, you know, I don't want to be penalized because, you know, I can't do jump puzzles or something.
No, but
No. I would like to just see achievements go away forever. That would be my...
That is the other option.
But
yeah, I just like once upon a time, if you had a mode like this, you'd pick it at the outset. It would be called like baby mode, and then you would be able to continue the game, and it would turn off all achievements. In this version of the game, thankfully, modern design sensibilities have each of these different supports or assists toggleable, so you can turn them on or off. You can do extra damage if you want and not be invincible. You can be invincible but have the damage be the same. You know, all of these things are separate checkboxes, and I think that's very cool.
I don't appreciate being called a baby.
Yeah, I never appreciated it when games did that too. Oh,
Super
and they also
weenie
have
baby mode.
Yeah. They also have an option for changing the font from a stylized font to a more easily legible one for folks with visual impairments. So yeah, it's very cool. So after the first level, we find out Lobato doesn't know who he worked for. He's been brainwashed and can't figure out who he worked for. But we do know that Maligula, this evil psychic who controls water, might be coming back. And from that point on, we're now in Psychonauts headquarters with all sorts of fun puns. And what was your favorite pun at the Mother Lobe?
I mean, that was going to be my pick. The name of the cantina is like, was it the Noodle Bar or something? And it has a picture of the brain. It was something like that. That was the one that I was like, I get it. That's pretty funny. What else?
Fingerprint's pretty good.
Whole bunch of them. Yeah, that one's good.
That's how you open things, by showing your fingerprint. Yeah, they've definitely put a lot of effort into making everything very punny all over the place. And as you run around, Raz becomes an intern. He was made a Psychonaut at the end of Psychonauts 1, and then when you get to the base in Psychonauts 2, they're like, just because Ford Cruller, this insane old man, gave you a merit badge doesn't mean you're a psychic secret agent. Sorry.
Rude.
We can make you an intern, I guess, or whatever. And the other interns are mean teens.
We got some more mean teens.
They are. Like, why are all the teens in all the games we play so mean? They steal your clothes. Who does that?
They do steal your clothes. They put you in a closet and steal your clothes. It's lame. They're like, hey.
To be fair, he handed them the clothes.
Because he was lied to.
Yeah.
It's not so much stealing if someone hands it to you.
It's like, hey, I'm the $20 inspector. Let me see those.
Yeah. I do like how he's not naked. He's just wearing like striped underclothes.
Yeah, because he's a circus performer.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he just constantly has his circus wear under everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, but even though like he's still wearing something, everyone's like, "Oh my God, you're naked."
Yeah, they're very mean. The meanest of the teens is definitely Norma.
Is she the purple one?
She's got a purple face, but she's got the orange hat.
Yes.
So
yes.
Yeah.
Norma sucks. Lizzie is her twin sister, and then there's Sam Boole, who is Dogen from Psychonauts 1's older sister. There's Gisu, she's got a skateboard. There's who's the other two kids. There's the kid with the yo-yo, and then there's the kid who levitates.
Adam and Morris.
Morris, yep. Adam, you only talked to a few times, so I forgot Adam's name. Or at least I had a hard time finding him, because like in Psychonauts 1, part of the fun of this game is between levels, kind of walking around, talking to all these characters and seeing what they have to say, because they have their own little internal lives. Though I will say, this game has less of that than Psychonauts 1 did. Like in Psychonauts 1, every character pairing had a little story beat that if you followed them around between levels, you could see. Psychonauts 2 has that only a little bit, which kind of bummed me out, but it's not the end of the world. So of the interns, who is your favorite intern, M?
Oh boy. I do like Lizzie because she's kind of standoffish and, that Chloe archetype that we see over and over again. Also like Gisu, who's very cool. And Sam, who you don't see a ton of, but she's neat. She communicates with animals. She has a cool scene at the end where she summons a whole whale. She's good. I like all the girls, true to form.
Yep. Pete, who is your favorite? Who's your favorite intern?
Yeah, I almost actively committed to learning no names in this entire game. Now that I realize it, so I liked the girl who summons the whale.
Sam.
I thought that was a boss move. She also makes pancakes and completely bullies all the woodland creatures into making these pancakes. Like the cute little rabbits are absolutely terrified of her, and I love that energy for her.
Yeah, I love when she's. So, Em, did you seek out characters in between levels?
Not often.
Okay, because Sam is in the pancake house in the questionable area, which what a great. We'll go over the questionable area and some of the other parts. But she's making pancakes, and her introduction to, like, if you go up and talk to her, a squirrel brings her nuts, and she's like, "Is something wrong with these nuts, William?" And it looks at her like, "No." And she's like, "Didn't I ask for crushed nuts?" And he's like, "Yeah." She's like, "Well, these aren't crushed, are they? Do I have to show you how to crush a nut?" No?
It gets super passive aggressive too. She's like, "I just want you to be the best you can be. You need to commit to excellence."
Every day. It's great. I love all the dialogue with her, with the pancake. You need to use up all of her dialogue every time you can talk to her. That's my advice. How are you making pancakes here? Where'd you get flour? I mean, it's not flour. What is it? Is that just straight up dirt? Yeah, for the umami. Just a lot of great sequences with her. She's definitely my favorite. Noelle, who is your favorite of the mean teens / interns?
I'd probably also have to say Sam. She was a lovable weirdo, and I was into it. Also Lizzie, because she's just, like, very upfront about being mean, and I like that more than the passive aggression of everyone else.
Yeah, and I do like, so in this game, they start you with some of the powers that you got in Psychonauts 1 later on in the game. So you have clairvoyance, which lets you see through other people's eyes. Psyblast, which is your ranged attack. Levitation, which is kind of a ball you walk on and lets you jump really high. And I think those are and pyrokinesis as well. So, you start with those powers and then you unlock a few more novel ones. They left a few behind. You don't have invisibility anymore and you don't have shields. But I think that change was for the better, like starting you with some of those powers. And did y'all use clairvoyance on people?
I fucking loved clairvoyance. The first time you use it on your hamster to escape the closet that you were trapped in, and everyone sees you a little bit differently, and your hamster just thinks you are like a guy in a hamster suit.
Yep.
Like you are a giant hamster. So after that, I was like, oh my god, this one, I'm going to use this on everybody. And it's very fun every time. They put like so much work into getting all these little like ways of representing you I feel like everyone has a unique view of you.
A lot of
Like-
them do. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if I saw very many like overlaps.
Yeah. There are overlaps when you're in someone's mind. Like you can do it on figments of their imagination, and some of them will overlap more. And all of the animals see you as a raving lunatic trying to kill them.
It's funny every time.
Yep. Every time I'm like, maybe this one thinks I'm cool. Nope. Straight up murderer every time. So yeah, getting that clairvoyance power early, I think, really set the tone well. And then, getting to see how the interns... At first, they all see you as a naked loser, and then you eventually will earn almost all of their respect. Norma sees you as a mole, because there's a mole in the Psychonauts. And so she thinks you're the bad guy.
Plot.
Yeah, so the first level we get is Forsyth. What is Agent Forsyth's first name? Do we know her first name? We do. Hollis, right. Hollis Forsyth. What a good name. What great shoulder pads.
All of the names are really good, and all of the character designs are amazing. It's very like Nightmare Before Christmas, kinda, especially with the kids.
Yeah, I would say 90s Tim Burton and or Nickelodeon.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It does have that sort of Nickelodeon, like, everything's off by like a quarter inch in certain directions.
Any of the characters from Psychonauts could wander onto the set of Hey Arnold, and I'd be like, that's fine.
Yeah, they fit there.
Or Invader Zim.
Invader Zim or Doug. There's a lot of overlap of the voice acting with Invader Zim specifically.
Whereas every time he screams, I'm like, oh right, Invader Zim is this voice.
And every time you summon your what is the flat
archetype.
dude? The archetype. Every time you summon your archetype and it's just Gur from Invader Zim. That's great. So the first level you get Hollis Forsyth, and you get your first power, which is mental connection. It's basically used kind of as would you call it like a grapple? Like a quick move system?
Yeah, pretty much. It's like a grapple hook with puzzles. Like sometimes you have to connect certain thoughts together.
Yeah, so sometimes you're just moving from a thought bubble to a thought bubble. Sometimes you're stringing a thought bubble with a word in it together with another word. Noelle, what did you think of the use of mental connection from just like a gameplay perspective and from the jokes? So
What jokes? Like what?
Like associating, say, for example, sandals with socks with cilantro.
They're all gross. We all know this. I thought it was really cool. I thought it was very like CBT-ish. And yeah, connecting your thoughts and stuff. And I think that it was a really good use of it. I don't know. Is it okay to skip ahead a little?
Yeah. We're going to spoil the whole game. Sorry. I mean, this game's only been out a month, but this is what we do here. So if you don't want any spoilers, go play the game. Actually, buy the game and play the game. Or it's on Game Pass. Game Pass is like $1.
Yeah, you could sign up for Game Pass for $1 like I did and play it for free. Yeah,
so check it out, and now we'll say that. And you also said it's very CBT-ish, cognitive behavioral therapy?
Yeah, okay. That's all about thoughts and connecting your thoughts and feelings and how that can influence you and your future feelings and thoughts, whatever. Anyways, but yeah, I thought that it was really cool that they used it to kind of show how someone can become an addict or someone who's addicted to gambling in this specific instance, where if you take the thought of, what was it? It was risk and money.
Yep.
And you put them together, and then she became a gambling addict. I thought that was really cool that they took that route of kind of explaining addiction and how that works, where it's literally it can start with just a simple distorted thought, and then it can morph into a whole lifestyle.
Yeah, so like it starts out with Raz trying to get sent on a mission that Forsyth thinks is too dangerous for them, so he starts trying to rearrange her thoughts so that she'll be a little bit less risk averse. And once he makes the money to risk association, a bunch of other associations start forming that he has no control over. And so she becomes a gambling addict. And we get this level, like the first version of her mind is very ordered. It's kind of like Sasha in Psychonauts 1, where his level starts as a Rubik's Cube, basically, that's completed. And then it like explodes out into these levels as he loses control of his thoughts. So in this game, she starts out very pieced together. You see a hospital level because I guess she used to work in a hospital. And then the second version of it, her entire mind has been taken over with neon and with, casinos. And it's just like completely changed the context of these areas you visited before, which I thought was very cool. What did we think of the 3 wards that we need to go to? Because you need to get $3 gazillion?
Bazillion. It's with a B. Am I wrong? Whatever.
Regardless, fake amounts of money.
Fake amount of money. I mean, they were all funny, in their own little way. I was both tickled and annoyed by the rich couple trying to win the baby.
That one's so good.
Is that roulette?
Yeah, it's a roulette wheel, okay. And if you win, you get a baby. And they're like, we have all the money in the world, but we don't have a baby.
And then, like, one of their last lines of dialogue, Raz is something like, oh, because you have so much money, right? And they're like, yes, but we don't like to talk about it much.
Yeah, I love that. I love we have the baby. When does it start fulfilling all of my unfulfilled desires?
That one was probably my favorite.
I also like that Raz just kind of like walks away and it's like, it's not a real baby. It's not a real baby. It's not a real baby.
It's just a psychic baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love just talking to all of the people around the rich couple, because there's a woman who says, wait, if you win, you get a baby? That's not how it works. I've been trying to lose this game my whole life. And then Raz is like, why are you playing if you don't want a baby? And she's like, you're not my mom. Don't talk to me. There's a couple where the woman wants a baby and her husband's like, yeah, we're definitely trying. And Raz is like, this game's rigged. You're never going to get a baby. And he's like, shut up. Yeah, honey, we're totally trying. It was very close to home. And also the character. No, I mean, it's like not. It's not actually because of anything for me. I mean, it's just I've heard a lot of discussions like that in the past. It's not
telling Mom.
No, don't you dare. It's very funny to me that there's a speculum that's the main character, like the person who's administering the roulette wheel too. Like, there's a bunch of weird characters in this level. There's a urine capsule that handles one of the gambling sections.
Yep, his head is just urine.
It's just pee with eyes in it. And then isn't the last one just like the last one's just it's a syringe. That one's fine. The other two much weirder. So the trick in this level, you need to eventually get her to disassociate these two things. And once her mind is set right, Psychonauts goes into one of the, I guess, more teachable moments that comes up in this game, because Raz, up until now, is basically a wonderkind who can do no wrong in Psychonauts 1. He doesn't really screw up. And in this level, after he makes this association, like, Hollis forgives him, but there are consequences for his actions. He gets a serious talking to. Noelle, how did that ring for you, like, as someone who's learning how to do therapy? Like, basically what Sasha tells him is, people give you tremendous trust to let you go in their mind. You can't fuck it up. You can't abuse that trust, and that's what you did. So how did that resonate? Or
yeah, I mean, agreed. Which is really fun when it's your first year of doing it, and they're like, well, now don't fuck it up. And I'm like, okay, cool. Thanks for showing me how to do basically nothing. But yeah, I think that it's really important, especially for people that are kind of new to the field, that you're still learning how to take care of yourself while taking care of others. And it's very easy to get so caught up in taking care of other people that you don't take care of yourself, and then that's just a detriment to the people that you're helping. So I think that really kind of plays out in this, where all Raz wants to do is help people, and do the best he can to be in the Psychonauts and help the people that are around him and have everybody like him. But he doesn't kind of take a step back to think about the consequences of just rushing into things.
It is too. It's a nice corrective from like some of psychology's seedier history. Like if you think about things like the Little Albert experiment, where they made a child terrified of white rabbits, and then the experiment ended, and they're like, "Oh, should we like decondition this out of them?" And they're like, "Yeah, already
fine.
done. Yeah,
It's
well,
not
he's probably
relevant.
okay."
They probably won't see a rabbit in their lives.
Yeah, so I think that it's also cool just like seeing there be consequences, because it's not as though Raz is completely spotless in Psychonauts 1, but everything always works out and no one gives him a talking to. And there's nothing worse than Sasha 9 being disappointed in you.
Aw. But I think that's also, like, with psychology, that's also one of the first things that you learn. Like, you can't go forward and actually see clients until you learn ethics, until you learn the stuff that you can't do, basically. But yeah, I think that it's an important corrective measure from just giving him an ultimate power in 1 and having him kind of fuck around but not have any consequences, to be like, okay, well, we need to re-examine this.
Yeah, and Hollis is more understanding than pretty much everyone else. All the other Psychonauts are like, what you did was really messed up. She is a little bit more forgiving because she did the same thing to someone else and then couldn't fix them. So, like, she made a few associations in a doctor who she didn't like's brain, and then it drove him insane. And the Psychonauts had to save him.
He seemed like he sucked.
He did.
Yeah,
he was
definitely
sexist.
sucked. Yeah. He was terrible.
Mm-hmm. So he deserved to get his brain fucked around with now.
Yeah, so, like, after you get on the mission, after you fix Hollis, you go on the mission, and you have a cool team-up moment with all the interns, which it only happens once or twice in the game, but it's very cool when, you know, the psychic gang forms up like Voltron. And they do a lot of, like, split-screen stuff that looks almost like a cartoon, too, where, like, you're controlling Raz in one screen, and then a character will flash on screen and be like, now I'm gonna do my thing! Yo-yo, go! Or, you know, fireball!
Or whale.
Or whale. Those traditional powers. So after this, we find, you know, there's an abandoned hotel room where, what is the term? The delusionists have been trying to resurrect Maligula. You head back to Psychonauts headquarters. There's not really too many leads at that point, so you go meet with Truman Zanato, who is Lily's dad, but also Grand Head of the Psychonauts, and it turns out he's been faking that he's unconscious, and he tells you what you need to do is get Ford Cruller, get him back, and he'll figure out what to do about Maligula. Which leads to one of the weirdest metaphysical questions of this game, where how does Raz get Ford? How do you summon the Psychonauts Grand Head, or one of the leaders?
I do. So apparently Ford Cruller has just been hiding in your head this whole time, and if you hold up a piece of bacon to your ear, he'll come out to eat it, and then split into 3 versions of himself. That part I got confused.
Yeah. Well, that happens in Psychonauts 1. He just, like, shows up in a bunch of places with different personas. Like, he's a park ranger, he's the shopkeep, and then he's also the Grand Head of the Psychonauts. In this version, he works at the bowling alley, he works at the mailroom, and he works at the barber shop.
Right. Why is he in Raz's head in the first place? Like, why Raz specifically?
So, in Psychonauts 1, he's a psychic stowaway in Raz's head so that he can help him on his mission, because Ford is only Ford when he's near this giant block of Psytanium, which is that currency that you use to buy things. So that psychoactive material keeps his mind focused, and so he doesn't drift into his other personas. So he's kind of like in your ear as like a radio.
Okay.
Like you can talk to him when you need him. But they do it in this zany way. So yeah, you wave bacon and then he slides out of your ear. all the way.
I do have to say, I really liked the animation of the bacon and then Raz, like, slowly backing up so that he was all the way out of his ear. I think that animation was just perfect.
It was very gross.
Yep.
The noodle coming out of his ear, that man. He's very, very thin. So yeah, you get him back, and then you begin kind of the big mission of the early part of the game, which is reassembling Ford Cruller. So each of his versions of himself has a different mind that you can go into, and they each represent kind of different memories in Ford's life. But to get to all of them, you need additional help. So you can get to the barber version of Ford without help. Then you get stuck trying to get into the mailroom because Nick John Smith, because Raz's intern advisor is the mailroom guy named Nick John Smith.
So like Nick John Smith seems like a dumb name. Once you get like Nick John Smith's full story, it becomes a great name.
Yes.
Like an excellent alias.
Truly.
Did we mention the fact that we found his body in a thing, like in a box?
Oh yeah, right. Nick's body is in a box, and then every time he's brainless, and every time you try to go to the mailroom, he can get trapped into different contraptions in the mailroom, which is great. Like sometimes his head's stuck in the stamper, and he's just getting stamped forever. Sometimes he's wrapped himself in saran wrap, and he can't escape. It's just a joy to leave there and come back. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, so the mailroom, you need a brain to go in Nick's body so that you can get access to the sorting room. And then the bowling alley, you need a bowling card, like a member's card. A
senior league pass card.
Yeah, so to get those, you need a brain, so you can go to Otto's. So Otto Mentalis, one of the members of the Psychic Six, who are new in Psychonauts 2. They were not from Psychonauts 1, but they are the members of Ford Cruller's generation of Psychonauts who, they just did LSD, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Oh, yeah, pretty much. They went into the forest and opened the doors of their mind.
And they got high.
A lot.
Didn't they say that in What's His Name's brain? They're like, oh, they're either here or over there getting high.
Yes. So when you go into the Unmarked Brain that we'll talk about in a second.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. They mentioned that, characters are getting high, but he said up there, at the mountaintop, getting high. Get it? It's not drugs at all.
Yeah, just like Colorado.
Yeah.
Fun.
So you can pick at this point whether you want to get the senior league card from Compton Boole, Dogen's grandpa, or you can try to find a brain by going to Otto Mentalis. And so the Psychic Six were Ford, Otto Mentalis, Bob Zanotto, who is Lily's uncle, Compton Boole, which is, again, Dogen's grandpa, Cassie Opia, who's very cool. She works with bees. And then Helmut Fulbear, who was a large Norse man who did the arts, I guess. He did plays. So Bob controls plants, Compton talks to animals, Cassie talks to specifically bees. One person's an actor, Otto is the tech guy, and Ford is the Red Power Ranger. Yep. He has no distinguishing characteristics other than he's the leader. And the best. So, Em, which character did you pick to help out first? The Unmarked Brain or...
Unmarked Brain seemed more interesting.
Yeah, so Unmarked Brain is a really cool level. It's a brain that's been without a body for years.
Yeah, like 25. 25 years in person time, much, much longer in brain time.
Which is a terrifying concept.
It is. Em, how would you describe that level and what it's all about?
I'm a little fuzzy on the details. It's been a bit... I think you could summarize it better than I could.
That's fine. Yeah, so it's a brain that's been out of a body, so it's completely detached from senses.
Yeah.
It's been a mind all by itself with no inputs. And so you put this brain in a body, and it freaks out and has a panic attack because the sheer amount of stimuli that it's receiving at once is too much. And so you kind of go into this mind to try and help it deal with the overwhelming rush of stimuli. And this level looks like Sgt. Pepper?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say, you know what it reminded me of was Dr. Teeth and the Electric Mayhem. Maybe
Yep.
the best band name of all time.
Yes.
What?
The
I don't
Muppets.
Oh,
It's
right.
the band from the Muppets.
I knew it sounded familiar.
Yeah, so it's similar to that. It's got a little bit of Beatles, like, is it Yellow Submarine, the movie?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah,
Very psychedelic.
very psychedelic. And this character is called Psy King. It starts out as just a mote of light. And as you keep assembling, you basically meet characters who represent each of the senses.
He has great dialogue when he's just a ball of light, though.
He does. Just like, am I the only thing that exists? Am I all that's real? Am I God? I'm probably God.
Yeah, that's the only thing that makes sense.
Sure, man. Sounds right.
I do have to say also that the panic attack animation was amazing. I think that was like a very good depiction of a panic attack with just like everything all over the place and super fast and like super like all the colors coming out, and it's just like very chaotic, and I think that was a really good depiction of a panic attack.
Yeah, and this
Physical
game,
form.
the first game, there were sensors, which were like these little dudes with stamps that would try to take you out. That was one of the main enemies. And then a lot of the enemies, other than the sensors, would be specific to the mind you're in. So they'd be like, you know, if you went into, let's say, Mia's mind, you know, there might be some hippie-looking things. If you go into some of the later minds in Psychonauts 1, like there's some Napoleonic knights or you know, soldiers or, you know, escargot with cannons. It was all very specific. In this game, the enemies are almost entirely generic mental problems. Like you fight doubts, you fight regrets. So doubts are balls of tar that kind of waddle towards you and weigh you down. You can't jump when regrets are nearby. Or when doubts are nearby. Regrets weigh you down, so they're like these little bugs that fly around carrying weights and they drop them on you. Panic attacks are these monsters that show up and like teleport all over the place. You can fight judgment, and they're judges. They throw books at you and have big gavels. What was the one? Oh, is it a mood swing or an anger?
It's a bad mood.
Bad mood, right. Bad moods. I love the way bad moods work. They're so cool. Like, it's an enemy that's invincible until you find the cause, and once you defeat the cause, then the bad mood goes away.
Yeah.
There's one, too, that was like a cheerleader or like a marching
Yes,
band
I loved
leader.
that
Oh,
one.
an enabler.
Enabler, that
Yeah.
was it. And it powered up the other enemies.
Mhm.
Yeah, it enhances these other negative thoughts, which is such a... Like, the metaphors work way better in this game than they did in the first one. And I liked that they genericized all the enemies, and in doing so, made it clear that, like, you're in the minds of these very powerful psychics, but doubts and fears and panic attacks and bad mood, like, all of those traumas exist within the ostensibly the strongest minds in the world. People who have done the most introspection. And I thought that was very important, you know, a very cool thing to represent, that at the end of the day, we all deal with these issues in some form. And as we find out, kind of going through this unmarked brain, eventually we realize that this brain belongs to Helmut Fulbear, one of the missing members of the Psychic Six. He was presumed dead. They never really explain how his brain ended up in Otto's lab, but his body has still not been found.
Saved it.
Yeah.
Saved it. Right?
I don't think they say that.
No, I think they said that at some point. I don't remember. I think wasn't he the one that told Fulbear, like, no, Bob saved it, they kept it, but they couldn't get your body out.
Maybe I missed that part. But even
That
still,
would explain, though, why they like misplaced it in the brain vat.
Yeah. Forgot to label it.
You know those times?
One of your founding members, and just, oh, it's over there somewhere.
Like, the other brains he was next to were not good brains.
Yeah.
You don't know that.
He
They
also
tell you.
like these are shit brains. This is one of the best like original video game songs I think I've heard in a long
Oh
time.
yeah,
When Side King and the rest of the band get together and they jam out, it's really good.
so
Yeah.
fun.
And I love, so as you assemble these different senses, like Psy King will kind of gain more and more faculties. You know, you meet someone who's hearing, one character represents taste, sight, touch. And each of these characters, if you pick up on it, are voiced by other members of the Psychic Six. So like, I think an Eyeball's the first guy you meet, and he's voiced by Ford. He's got the same voice as Ford, and I'm like, huh, that's weird. Why would they? It seems odd that they would use the same voice actor and have him do the lines the same way that he does when he's doing Ford. I guess you got a budget.
It's 16 years of development, you know, I just ran out of funds.
Yep. And yeah, it becomes clear over time that actually each of these different senses, they are senses, but they also represent the characters that he was best friends with.
Which it makes sense that there are 5 in that way, but like it's kind of unfair to the other senses. You know, like where's the proprioception person? You know, why do they get left out?
How would you represent that?
Look, I'm not an artist. You know, that's not my department.
One of the best things about these guys is that they're like their head is a hand or a big eyeball. I thought that was funny, and all their names are like, oh shoot, what was the hand one? That was the
Dr.
one.
Touch?
Yeah,
What was
Dr.
Dr.
Touch.
Touch?
I was like, okay.
He's a doctor, like Dr. Dre is a doctor.
Mhm.
Just like weirdly sensual too, like
Yeah.
Dr. Touch.
Yeah, and the level is like absurd. Like when you go to the smell section, there are noses, and you like climb up nose hairs. Like there's eyeballs growing everywhere in some of the levels. You have to feed a gumdrop to a giant tongue so that it'll get out of your way. Like it's very trippy, that level. Hard to look at in some spots because it's so psychedelic. So after that level, you can go to Compton Boole's level, and his biggest problem is that he's kind of dealing with overstimulation. He also deals with panic attacks and judgment. This is where the judge enemy first shows up. And his level, Pete, why don't you explain? Because I know you love cooking shows.
Oh my god, his is my favorite level. So Compton Boole's is a video cooking game show called Ram It Down.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're cooking dishes for these 3 ram judges. They're goats basically, and like you're using these anthropomorphic ingredients. Like the egg's alive. There's a pig you have to grill, an onion you slice, and they're all very excited to participate, despite the fact that you're boiling, chopping, frying them. So you cook these dishes for these rams, and they're all very ambivalent, I guess, sort of blasé about what you hand to them. And like Compton Boole's big character arc is that he learns to sort of, eventually he cooks for himself, but he learns to sort of upsell the dishes too. Like he starts talking about mouthfeel and mise en place and things like that. It's one of the funniest levels as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and each of the rams kind of represent people who have slighted him, and he, I guess, feels underappreciated by. Like, there's one ram that's clearly Ford Cruller, one that's clearly Hollis Forsyth, and one that's clearly Bob. Zanotto, not Bob Zanotto. Lily's dad.
Truman
That's
Zanotto.
No, but
Truman Zanotto.
He's the announcer.
He's the host, right? Who's the third? Otto Mentalis. It's Otto, but a goat. So yeah, cooking for them. I loved the section where you have to get one of the pigs chopped up so that you can make bacon, and then the like mechanical thing that does the chopping is a big pig, and so it's very apprehensive about a pig chopping up a pig.
It's like, that's kind of fucked up.
That's really messed up. Hey, I know this pig. That's my nephew. You're really gonna make me do this?
Yes, we are.
Well, look, we need to make progress here. So yeah, we kind of teach Compton how to stand up for himself, and also how to get these other thoughts, these other voices out of his head. Because he's in psycho-isolation because he can hear animals and hear what they think. So being alone is the only way that he can have quiet in his mind. and we kind of teach him how to quiet those negative thoughts. And it's cool because, I mean, at the end of the level, like, all of the goats are hand puppets. And at the very end, one of the puppets is revealed to just be under his hand, and he realizes it was him. He was torturing himself all along.
I mean, I did do some psychoanalyzing on this one. And ram it down. Obviously, he's ramming down his feelings. And hence, okay, so there's also the point in the game where after you've done like your 3 levels, then you basically feed them until they explode.
Yep.
And I think that is like a metaphor, whatever, for him, and he is pushing down his trauma, and now he is exploding.
If I could give a counter diagnosis, Noelle, I think he's just really into vor.
I mean, that's also
No.
could be it.
God damn it, Pete.
Oops, all vor.
Why does it always come to this?
Once we get competence card, then we get to Ford again, and it's cool because this is the first opportunity we have to really see what Ford's mind looks like. We deal with him in the first game, but you never go in his head. And when I first heard they were making a Psychonauts 2, I was like, oh, they have to do Ford. You have to do multiple levels, each for his different personalities, and that was exactly how they did it. It was awesome. But each of the different personalities kind of ends up lining up with moments in his life that he's kind of reliving and cannot move past.
Because of all that regret, that mucky regret.
Yes, that shitty regret that drops fucking anvils on your head. So there's the barbershop level. I don't remember what. Oh, right, there are lice in the barbershop level, and you have to deal with the lice by dropping Barbasol on it. And the Barbasol, as you're dropping it, Ford's like, "Don't drop the Barbasol." What's Maligula's real name? Lucretia. Lucy, stop it. They're peaceful protesters. And so every time you like wipe out these lice, it's clear that he's reliving the trauma of her drowning a bunch of people. Because we learn Maligula's backstory. Like, she was the person who killed a lot of Raz's family in his home country of Grulovia. She was an emissary of the Tsar, spelled with a G.
Totally different.
And she came to help settle a civil war. She did so by killing a lot of people. And then after killing a lot of people, she was almost assassinated by the Tsar, at which point she turned on the Tsar. And then the Psychonauts came and stopped her because she was on a murderous rampage.
Because that was the line?
But it turns out that Ford loved her. So, there's multiple layers. So yeah, the barber level is where you learn about her kind of killing people a lot. There's the bowling level. I forget what he's dealing with there. There's a bunch of germs.
There are a bunch of germs.
And
yeah, I don't remember. It's sort of like a little
You have to,
foray
like,
into
move
Super Monkey Ball for a little while. It's another cool level, though. It's a nice little like twist.
yeah, it's similar to Lungfishopolis in a way from Psychonauts 1. A lot of little germs. They don't like when you step on them.
And that was their first date.
Oh, right. Their first day was at the bowling alley.
Mm-hmm.
And then the male...
Ford and Lucy's. Sorry to specify.
Ford and Lucy. Yeah, and then the mail room, he's torturing himself because he wrote a letter to Lucy that was trying to basically say, hey, we're all worried about you. We're concerned about what we're hearing on the news. Do you need help or need anything? But the letter never got there.
Because he never sent it. Yeah.
So it's basically him torturing. What if I could have reached out to her and helped her before she did something bad?
Yeah, there's sort of a discussion there too about like whether or not, I don't know if it was in the letter itself, but like whether or not he ever told her he loved her. And like, I don't think he ever did.
Yeah, so we see these 3 traumas that Ford's working through, and he compartmentalizes each of them into the activity, like cutting hair, bowling. Like, you see him creating these different personas out of these traumas in his mind, and recontextualizing those traumas, which is, I think, a pretty interesting level design. And once you put him back together, He remembers that he did not in fact kill Lucy, aka Maligula. Instead, he brainwashed her into thinking that she didn't into thinking she was someone else, basically. And it turns out he brainwashed her and then left her with her family, which turns out to be Raz's family. And she has been living as Raz's Nona for 20-something years without knowing any better.
Yeah, it's pretty effed up. Like, Ford Crawley doesn't come out, like, looking too good in this whole thing, which is also another interesting choice. You know, they picked basically your mentor and said, like, yeah, your mentor is pretty fucked up, too.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting that he is also like, okay, you know how I've been compartmentalizing everything? You need to do that now with your anger because, like, it's not about you. But yeah, I thought it was interesting that he actually kind of confronted him and was like, no, that was really fucked up. Just like, what's his name? Who's the guy with the glasses?
Sasha.
Like Sasha did to Raz, where it's like, no, you pushed the line. The line was here. You're over here now.
Yeah, what you did to my family was messed up. And they also kind of reverse engineer then why Raz is scared of water, because Ford made sure that Lucretia was scared of water because her powers come out when she's around water. Like, her power is to control water. So making her scared of it and making the whole family scared of it reduced the chances of her remembering who she was.
There are also layers to Ford's involvement in this whole thing. So basically what turned Lucretia into Maligula was, you know, they were in their secret LSD retreat, and they were all, like, you know, getting high together and opening up doors in their mind, and then she got the call to go back to Grulovia, and Ford was like, no, like, you're in this sort of very delicate, vulnerable state. And then when she went out there and sort of committed these atrocities, you know, in the name of, you know, peace or order at the very least.
As Bono would say, in the name of love.
Yeah. It just broke her. So, like, there's this interesting idea that, like, look, the way you help these people is, you know, they're vulnerable, you go in their mind, you unlock these things. But you also see Maligula where it's like, yeah, but if you go too deep and let certain things out, it becomes dangerous. You can't really contain things once they get loose.
Yeah, and she also realized, like, she was in a fragile state. She put down this war. There were protesters. After she put down the war, she put down the protesters, and it turns out her sister was in one of the protests. And so she drowned her own sister to death. And that kind of causes her to completely disassociate and fall into this Maligula persona. But yeah, because Ford loves her, instead of killing her or defeating her in a more permanent way, he stashes her away. And he also brainwashes Raz's dad into thinking that Maligula is his mom. So he goes to work on both of them.
I guess just to make this story more convincing, like, to tie up loose ends. Is that the thought?
Well, he'd notice it's not his mom.
Yeah, it's also, I think he said that because, like, they both didn't have anyone. So that's what made his choice.
Yeah, they're the only family they have.
Yeah. Ford's really rationalizing things.
Yep.
So yeah, after this section with Ford, we go to...
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I thought it was interesting that the way Ford Crawler kind of explains Maligula existing within Lucy is that, what's it called? Is that she is a, like, the most primitive version of Lucy, and, like, her ancestors, like, needed that part for being able to eat and all this and survive, basically. But we can't just get rid of that part of us. And then when she's in this, like, hyper traumatized state, she reverts back to that. I just thought that was a really interesting way of describing it and explaining it.
She's like fight or flight made a whole person.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sorry.
No, you get it.
M would have said it better, Gino.
M, you say it.
I would say it is a fight or flight complex.
Damn.
Yeah, it's much better.
Edit it so that you said it.
It's actually fight, flight, or freeze. And I think there's another one, actually.
Wait, there are multiple options?
Yeah.
Psychology's come so far.
Yep, I know, right?
Freeze.
Crazy, guys. Freeze is actually usually what you do first, and then either of the other two.
And then the fight or the flight?
Mm-hmm.
Fight, flight, freeze. You can't say that 3 times fast.
Do it.
No, you can't make me.
That reminds me, I want to say something completely unrelated.
Go for it.
In the first Godzilla, or it might be the second Godzilla movie, whatever, they ask what the animals are all coming together for, and the scientists look, these big animals, they only come for 3 things: either food, a fight, or and he pauses for a sec. He goes, or something a little bit more intimate. Just that's such a good line.
Yeah, so I mean, I can't even follow that up. That's just so good. After Ford kind of puts his mind together, we go to Green Needle Gulch, which is the place where they did the LSD. I mean, didn't do LSD. Totally didn't.
Green Needle Gulch, just saying.
Yep. And we deal with 2 of the other members of the Psychic Set. Well, now we know they're the Psychic 7. Cassiopeia and Bob Zanotto. So Cassie's mind is dominated by bees, and Bob's is dominated by alcoholism. Noelle, which one would you like to discuss first?
Let's do Cassie's, because I think that's the order that I did it in.
Okay.
Or I watched it in.
Yeah, so Pete, how's Cassie's brain? What's going on with her?
Cassiopeia. So first off, Cassiopeia is a famous mythical figure I know nothing about. So if
in the Final Fantasy games, it's usually a giant monster.
Okay, you gave it to Pete. No talking about Final Fantasy.
Continue, Pete. Want to look up Cassiopeia independently? They can feel free. But she is a librarian, or kind of. So it's in a library, and her whole deal is she can create different avatars. So it's sort of, faceless man, person with 1,000 faces sort of deal, where we all contain multitudes. So you need to go around these different books and unlock these new avatars so they can all combine together to create the quote-unquote real Cassiopeia. And there's some pretty good book puns, honestly. You talk to Shakespeare, like a Shakespeare analog. I think there's a Moby Dick one, too. It's all very literary, tickled my fancy.
Yeah, there's a knight and a dragon that are fighting, and the dragon's like, what the hell? What did I do to you, knight? And the knight's like, you are a beast most foul. And he's like, this asshole just talks like this. I don't get it. What a jerk.
The dragon is really the rational one in that conversation.
Yep. Yeah, and this game obeys the rule of 3s in a lot of cases. We got 3 versions of Ford we need to put together. Cassie has 3 different versions. It turns out that she was a counterfeiter for a bit. And then there's the librarian.
And a snitch.
Yeah, and a fucking snitch. She was an author and a teacher. And so you need to kind of assemble each of those personas. Then you get the archetype power.
Yeah.
Which is the ability to draw a little flat version of yourself and send it around to do stuff. Which was one of the I think 2 new powers. You get a time bubble power. That comes from Psy King, and then this power.
And if y'all want to learn more about archetypes, go out ahead and look up Carl Jung, and you can learn more about it.
How accurate do you feel the Psychonauts interpretation of Carl Jung's archetype literature is?
I mean, it touched on it pretty, well, to be honest. It's because it is about, you have these different parts of yourself that you use at different times when it is necessary, but they all make up who you are. But yeah, depending on the situation you're in, you're gonna pick a different archetype. So just like she had an archetype for her job and for her passion, which I guess is writing. And
then to just get by, she had to do crimes.
Just to wrap up the whole Cassiopeia thing. I just looked up who she was. She was the mother of Andromeda, who sacrificed her to the sea gods. It has literally nothing to do with what's going on in Psychonauts.
It's just a cool name.
Yeah, it just sounds awesome.
So Bob Zanotto's mind. Noelle, want to break down what's going on with old Bobby? Poor Bobby.
Poor Bobby. Pete, I don't want you to be triggered, so trigger warning for Pete. He has this moth that kind of goes around.
It's got a mustache, too. It's got a
It does.
butt mustache.
Pete, are you not a fan of moths?
Moths, butterflies, dragonflies, all those dumb winged bastards.
I did not know this about you.
Oh, man, you've been on the podcast for so long. You didn't know that Pete's scared of butterflies?
And moths.
And moths.
And
And
dragonflies.
I
Which
did
are
not.
just, moths are just dusty butterflies when you think about it.
True.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Well, if there's any podcast to flesh all this out, it'd be this one.
That's true.
Let's talk about your traumas and fears. Phobias. Okay, so there's this moth, and it's trying to protect Bob and by having him not deal with anything. So Bob is, he talks to plants. So in his mind, he is in this kind of deserted island, but with like giant pots.
Yep.
And you have to go and collect, I think also 3.
Yep. Always 3.
3 seeds. And 1 seed represents his mom. 1 seed represents the other
Truman.
Zanato?
Truman Zanato.
Yeah, his brother.
And
who
the other
fired him.
one represents Helmet, who is his husband.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so when he plants them, all of a sudden, all these bottles show up, which Raz apparently doesn't notice at all because he doesn't react to them. And then some other things like bloom while it's happening. Then they start growing out of control and attack.
Yeah.
Did that summarize?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
like, a lot of his mind, the levels, you're kind of on a big planet almost with ocean all around you. And each of these seeds are hidden inside of a bottle, buried. It's kind of doing part like ship in a bottle metaphor, but also he's an alcoholic.
And this whole time, the moth, every time you see a seed, the moth comes and takes it away to hide it
Yes.
in the bottle.
So burying the seeds, which are his memories, deeper and deeper into bottles.
Mhm.
And you run into other versions of Bob, which are these like potatoes that are burping because they're drunk.
bulbs.
The bulbs.
Right, they're bulbs. He's just a potato man. But I found, for me, like the helmet section, each of these sections are pretty rough when you realize like what's actually happening. Like his mom, you find, did y'all open the memory vault in his mind about his mom?
Mm-mm.
Pete, you did?
Yeah, I can't remember now what it is though, but I think where you're headed is this was the most heartbreaking level overall, and I would agree with you.
Oh, by far. Yeah. So like his memory is his mom was always in her greenhouse, and he would come home and she wouldn't be around, and she'd always be in her greenhouse and she'd be coming back late. And one day she passes away, and so he goes into her greenhouse to see what was going on in there. And all of the plants, because the Zanatos can all talk to plants, they all start giving him bottles of alcohol as soon as he steps in. So clearly she's just been coming into this place, drinking herself to death, night after night after night, and he didn't know. So that's horrifying.
Mm-hmm.
Then his trouble with Truman.
Alcoholism can be very genetic.
Yep. Truman fired him because he found him not useful, and so he deals with that. His mental memory of Truman's pretty great. If you find it, just kind of walking around on the overworld, he's like, I fired Bob because firing people makes me feel like a big, strong man. Which is great. And you can also find Lily in Bob's mind, and if you talk to her, she'll talk back to you, but she doesn't have Lily's voice or Lily's personality because he's only seen pictures of her.
Yeah. Like Raz asks her, he's like, did you ever meet your uncle in person? She's like, no. Why?
Yeah, so, and then the third level, it's Helmet, like, he and Helmet falling in love and getting married, and then Helmet dying in the fight with Maligula. And as far as Bob is concerned, he's dead. So, just tormenting himself over that.
There's also,
and then,
there's sort of
go
like
ahead.
a quietly Like, it doesn't really compare to Helmet dying or, his mother drinking himself to death. But there's a quietly devastating part of the level where you just talk to the like avatars of the other Psychic Six, and they're like, yeah, like, we never really liked Bob. We just sort of took him because he was a package deal with Helmet, and everyone loved Helmet. Which is like, just sort of like,
It's sad.
It's like so subtly devastating that like he just thinks none of these people ever really liked him. He was just tagging along.
Yeah.
I mean, if anything, like, you can see how people turn to alcoholism by, like, looking at this.
Yeah.
And the depression and the complete hopelessness that is embodied in this chapter.
Yeah, and once you've planted all the plants, they grow up into these giant monsters that you have to fight. And this moth is trying to fuck with you the whole time. And the moth is Bob's face, basically, in moth form. Like, it's like one of those butterflies that looks like a, owl face or something. And once you defeat each of these memories, and they are all like, why'd you let me die? You never cared for me. Just tearing him down the whole time.
And clearly the moth is alcoholism.
Yes,
right?
masking everything.
Yes. Okay.
And after the fight, the moth is on his face. He takes it off, and it's literally a mask. And then he sees through. He puts down the bottle, basically, and realizes that he's been masking his traumas instead of dealing with them.
That's not how alcoholism works. You don't just magically take off the glasses and then you're fine. But it's a beautiful story.
Yes. It works. It's a great metaphor, not a great therapy practice. You probably wouldn't get very far with that.
Maybe if you therapists were better and you could actually go in people's brains, that would be how alcoholism works.
That's the next step. First, we have to start using the LSD, and then we go into people's brains.
That's true.
Use LSD, unlock psychic powers, go into people's brains.
Drown.
That is the checklist.
Drown the small monarchy nation. It's collateral damage.
Yeah, so after this, we get the ability to deal with Maligula. We're going to go into Nona. Oh, we didn't even talk about Raz's family showing up, the Aquatos. They're great.
They're interesting.
At
the very least.
I love their weirdness. I love the little one who dances around and says, "No, look at me." I love the one who runs away from you. I love Dion, who's a prick, and he uses, I think you say, are you using pomade? And he's like, no, it's styling wax. Get it right, loser.
Stupid.
Was his dad canonically psychic in the first one?
Yes.
Okay.
In the first one, Raz says, I think my dad's psychic, but he's repressing it. So in this game, he's accepted the fact that he's psychic. And he's trying to light a pine cone on fire.
Oh, and they're repressing it because acrobats and psychics, aka fortune tellers, have a huge feud in this world.
They're mortal enemies. They're like mongooses and cobras. So yeah, we try to get Nona back to, her original Lucy self.
You didn't even, that's the worst reveal. You didn't know that before.
No, I said Nona's
figured that
Lucy
out.
and
I
his
thought you
Maligula.
did.
We
sorry.
did. But yeah,
I forgot.
like the Psychic Six assembles, they're all helping you out. It's all going to work out. And right as you're confronting Maligula in Lucy's mind, you get pulled out by Truman Zanato. He said, "You look like you were in over your head. Let me just handle this." And you're back in the real world, and something is up. And so you go inside Truman's mind, and what happens? Whose mind is it?
Truman's mind is not Truman's mind. It's the Tsar of, how do you pronounce it?
Grulovia.
Grulovia.
You can't tell me that it's not Genovia.
Is Grulovia from the first one, by the way?
No, this is all.
Okay.
This all comes up. I don't think we go over where the hell Raz's family's from. They're from the circus.
Right. This is Gristel Malik, who is the heir to the Grulovian throne, and
AKA
Nick
John Smith.
Oh, right. Yeah,
Nick John Smith.
I forgot that was an important part of this. You go in there and there's like a statue of Truman, and then Raz is like, this is weird. It doesn't seem like this is in character for him. And then you break it, and then there's a giant Nick John Smith head. And you're like,
Made out of gold.
weird. And then he comes in, and he's like getting adorned with all the stuff of the Grolovian Tsar, which includes a very large hat.
With his chandeliers.
Yeah. Which are some interesting fashion choices. And then you go on It's a Small World ride.
Yeah, so...
Yet somehow creepier.
Yeah. Which
So
is
his-
hard to do.
His version of the history of Maligula and the Psychonauts is slightly different than the one you hear up until this point. How would you say it differs, Noelle?
I'm sorry, what?
How would you say he seems to have a different perspective on things than all of the other characters?
Just a tad. Just a little bit different. Well, obviously, Maligula is a savior to their people, and they want them back. They want her back so that she can continue saving them, which is exactly what she did, not murder them at all. That would be ridiculous. But his father was the one who messed up by trying to turn against Maligula, so it was all his fault that they were banished. And he wants to reconcile with Maligula and totally not use her to get the throne and assume power.
Yeah, See, the problem with the original
He just
Tsar...
wants love and support from his people. That's it.
The problem with his dad was that he didn't murder enough peasants. He got really turned off when she started murdering peasants. And if he had just murdered
Like a
more,
nerd.
then they would have had peace. And Nick John Smith really wants to eat caviar, and he hates the fact that he was denied caviar for many years. This is not also a thing that comes up, is that he's like, we were thrown into squalor. You were staying in great hotels. What are you talking about,
He
squalor?
was homeless, okay?
I had to stay in Ritz-Carltons. That's not a home.
No, it's not.
When you're here, you're not family. So yeah, you go into his mind. You have to work your way through It's a Small World after all, beat him up in his brain. And once you eventually defeat him, you find out where Truman's brain is, like his actual brain. And then you have to deal with Maligula and her traumas. And so
Trauma everywhere.
we get to that. So we don't have to go into like the final level. Did anyone see the post-game content at all?
Oh, Lobato gets away.
Lobato gets away. Yep.
That's the
You
whole
can also-
thing. He goes to Whispering Rock.
What's her name? Nick ends up in the psycho-isolation room where Compton was, and he's pretty sure. Hollis and Sasha both strongly imply that they are going to torture him or experiment on him.
What? Not Nick John Smith.
Yeah, they're like,
Everyone
we need to
loves
do some
Nick.
experiments. I mean, send him to trial.
Yet another reason why Psychonauts corrupt. Probably.
But they're fun. They're zany.
Zany corrupt.
Yeah, I like when you can meet Lily and her dad after her dad is recranialized, and he's talking to you, and at one point Lily's like, he says like, I really care about you, Lily, and Lily's like, I really hamburger hot dog food truck? What? And he's like, oh, you're making me think I have brain damage. That's very funny, Lily.
They are weird, aren't they?
Yep.
Just some light gaslighting at the end there.
Yep.
It's fine. Just how Lily shows love.
Yep. So what do we think? And this is your first Psychonauts experience. Did this work for you? Are you interested in seeing more of this world?
I mean, it's a lot to take in at times, especially in the more LSD-inspired levels. Jumping into it, like, right off the bat, being in a literal dentist's office was quite a way to start off. But after a while, I was like, you know what? This might as well happen. And
That's the attitude.
yeah, I think it was pretty good overall.
Pete, what did you think as a follow-up?
I liked it. I do think though it didn't quite have, except for Bob's level, there wasn't quite the same sort of heaviness, I'll say, as the first one. Like if I remember right in the first one, isn't there a burnt down orphanage?
Yeah, so in the first one, in Mia's mind, you can find a secret room where she's hidden away her memories of the orphanage that she worked at burning down and all the children burning alive inside of it. So
Whoa.
that's a secret in Mia's mind. There isn't such a secret room that I found in this game. Like Hollis, I guess, has some secrets about how she fucked with a doctor's mind. But there's not a secret area on that level of magnitude. And also, this game, you're dealing almost exclusively with members of the Psychic Six. It's all Psychonauts plus Lobato. So you're basically dealing with these powerful psychics, and though they do have complexes that are more recognizable, you've got gambling addiction, you've got alcoholism, the sensory deprivation, like archetypes. It's dealing with similar things, but some of the stuff that characters are dealing with in Psychonauts 1, like the whole back half of the game, you're at an insane asylum dealing with patients who are undergoing serious therapy, though not great therapy. Like you deal with a character with a Napoleon complex who's Napoleon's in his brain. Like there's a character who's got anger management issues, and there's a giant bull that's like rampaging through his mind at all times. So like I think that the characters in this game are slightly less troubled, but the metaphors are maybe a little bit more textured, if anything.
No, I think that's a fair critique. I will say though, like there's something to be said for not putting, orphans burning alive in your game, but I did miss some of that grimness, some of that.
So you're gonna say you did
despair.
miss some of the burning orphans?
Yeah, I don't want to be the pro burning orphans member of the podcast, but I thought.
But it seems like you are.
Some orphans
Someone's
could burn.
gotta be.
Yeah, I liked the atmosphere, let's call it, of the first one a little bit better.
Yeah, and I did miss like running around looking for characters here and there, and like their own little plot lines. Like there are some plots going on at Psychonauts camp. Like you can meet Morris is running a little radio station, and that progresses over time. Each of the interns are trying to assemble stuff for their counselors and their mentors, and that can be kind of fun. Like Lily's trying to coax a goat into coming and seeing Compton Boole. And there's like, I think a janitor and another janitor fall in love, and you can see that happen if you talk to them over time. But it's just not the same amount of like little zany characters and side plots, which I kind of missed. But maybe, if I go back in and read more of the world, there'll be more of that there, because I didn't notice that on my first playthrough of the original game either.
Is there anything as like a gameplay reward for doing those, or is it just plot?
It's plot.
Oh,
like
okay.
in the first game, you could completely not know that any of your fellow campers had stuff going on. But if you pay attention, like there's this kid named Nils, and he's trying to get the Mac on with multiple girls at camp, and it's a problem. And then there's two kids that are cheerleaders, and everyone thinks they're super nice and peppy, but actually they're very upset and they hate everyone, and they want to kill everyone.
Jeez.
Yikes.
So yeah, there's a lot of little things in the original game that here there's just less breathing room. Like once you go to Green Needle Gulch, you're basically on the terminal path until you get into the post game. So you don't. Green Needle Gulch has no characters to interact with except the main characters whose minds you're going into, plus Ford and Lucy. So it's just, it dials the funnel a little bit tighter towards the end, instead of giving you free range to explore. Which I don't mind. Like, it definitely keeps you on the critical path, but it removed one of the parts of the original game I liked. Though I think if there's one message that this game had that the first game maybe didn't make as clear of a point about, is that I think this game has a radical perspective on redemption and forgiveness. Lucy, at the end of this game, Oleander, I mean, he tried to kill everyone in Psychonauts 1, and he's now a Psychonaut in good standing. Raz messes with Hollis's mind, and he's forgiven. Lucy killed a lot of people, and the Psychonauts are like, okay, we've dealt with her trauma. We're going to try and rehabilitate her. Like, this game, even Lobato, they're trying to befriend, and there's like no truly evil character in the Psychonauts universe. There are only people who are misguided. And with enough help, they're made into members in good standing.
It's a weirdly positive spin on like Foucault's discipline society. So like in Discipline and Punish, Foucault talked about how we shifted from penalizing acts to like sort of penalizing people. And like around that, this whole apparatus of like psychologists and judges and experts arose to like determine who's culpable for what and whether or not people can be redeemed. And that creates a whole bunch of sort of surveillance problems and a whole sort of dystopian future that Foucault gets into. But this is sort of looking at, no, like if you don't look at acts, if you look at people, it also opens this space for redemption. It's an interesting positive spin on it. I don't know if I necessarily believe it like real world, but it'd be cool if it did work that way.
Yeah, I mean, Psychonauts is a world where people have infinite access to the reaches of people's minds and infinite patience.
I mean, I will say, as someone who is currently working in the jail system, doing counseling, I think that it is looking at people in a way that is not exclusively for the wrong things that they have done, but for, the people that they are and what shaped them and what really brought them there. Because a lot of the times, the people that have done these bad things have just been, like, screwed by the system over and over and over again to be put back into the situation, after having usually been in it since they were kids. So, yeah, I think that this is a very interesting way of showing that, yes, there's not necessarily bad people. There's just people that need help.
Yeah.
And there are some bad people. But
Nick John Smith is going to get experimented on forever. The game doesn't have a lot of sympathy for him. It has sympathy for everyone else, though.
Fuck John Smith.
But yeah, I mean, he doesn't regret anything he did. Everyone else like tries to make penance, and he's just like, nah, I'm going to be the Gazar.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I think we've covered everything in Psychonauts 2. Anything else, MP?
Oh, yeah.
Noelle?
One of the things that kind of drew me out of this game as I was playing it was the amount of collecting shit.
Oh my god.
There's so many different layers of collecting and so much to like upgrade. I feel like if they had done half of what they did, it would be enough for keeping my interest, because there's already so much stuff going on with it, just in like the scenery and all that. I don't know if I need to collect all the, little extra things.
The figments.
The cards, the half a mind,
the emotional baggage.
The baggage, what else is there? The
Titanium.
Yeah, that was it. The currency.
There is less of it in this game than there was in the first one.
Holy shit.
In the first game, there was stuff that was... So, like, you're collecting a lot of the same things, but there was content locked behind rank.
No.
Like, you had to get up to a certain rank to get pyrokinesis. And pyrokinesis was required to get into some levels.
How difficult is it to accumulate that much? Do you have to go, like, grinding?
So they had a dowsing rod in that game that you could buy, and if you bought the dowsing rod, it made it so that you could find large Titanium deposits throughout camp by using the dowsing rod, and that was your way to get a lot of Titanium, was using that. So you spent a lot of time running around camp picking up Titanium arrowheads.
I see. Well, as I said, like, if it didn't have any of that, I feel like I wouldn't lose interest in any of, like, the exploration. So, next time, Psychonauts 3 in 20 years, maybe there will be no collectibles.
Yeah, I mean, this game definitely came from, like, Psychonauts 1 came from an era not too far removed from Banjo-Kazooie and Spyro and, you know, all those collectathons being quite popular. Ratchet and Clank.
Crash Bandicoot, all those.
It was of a piece with those.
Mm-hmm. Feels dated at this point.
I will say it's at least better of the, like, modern revivals of collectathons. I think it is better than, like, Ukulele or one of those other, you know, nostalgia plays that did collectathon stuff. I think this is about as humanely done as a collectathon can be. It only unlocks upgrades, and those upgrades are almost entirely unessential. So that's at least good. But yeah, it is definitely a style of gameplay that has fallen out of favor in the 16 years since Psychonauts 1 was released.
Yeah.
Though I did like seeing the Figments. The Figments are cool.
I like seeing them, but having them be like
all.
a thing that, like, oh, I missed, 5, I gotta go back into this level, I wasn't thrilled about. And didn't feel necessary. But that was the only thing that I feel like it got in its way.
Yep. So, Noelle, do you have something?
Oh, yeah, I was just going to say, I think that, like, it's very interesting that, like, this one kind of did, like, a deep dive into a psychological issue of trauma, and taking it from, like, different stances. But I did like how Psychonauts 1 was a little bit more diverse in, like, the, I guess, disorders, if that's what we're going to call them, that they were working with. So I think, like, yeah, this was, like, a cool deep dive to see how different psyches can deal with trauma and how they can repress it to a point of breaking. But I also think that it was very interesting to see the variety of different things, kind of like what Pete was saying before in Psychonauts 1.
Yeah, so you're also pro orphans burning? That's what I'm getting at.
I said I'm more pro multiple diagnoses, so I didn't say anything about the orphans, and I plead the fifth.
So what you're saying is this game is more of a Haunting of Hill House. It's 7 characters who are all fucked up by the same trauma, and you're going into each of their minds and seeing how each of them have dealt with this foundational trauma. As opposed to Psychonauts 1, which is more of a Bly Manor. You know, everyone's got their own stuff going on.
The new one's coming out soon.
Aw, dope.
Yep. This has now become a podcast about that show. Please watch it. It'll come out, I think, this weekend.
What?
I think so.
Fuck.
Sorry.
Spoilers.
Spoilers that it's coming out.
I think with that, Psychonauts 2, we could wrap it up. I waited for this game for 16 years. I'm surprised it came out at all, and I'm also pleasantly surprised that it's very good. I would venture a guess that this is the best game Double Fine's ever made. Like, they've had a lot of great premises, but this they actually executed from start to finish and had the premise. So check it out if you can. Like we said at the beginning, it's pretty cheap if you have Game Pass. Otherwise, it's $60. So, Pete, I believe it is now your turn to pick.
It is. I'm back around. So this game drew me in based on its voice cast, and then I noticed it was even more psychedelic than the already psychedelic things we've been enjoying lately.
Oh, no.
I know.
I am deeply fearful.
So I am picking The Artful Escape.
Okay. Oh.
I have no idea what this is.
It's about a teen. I don't think he's mean, so we're going to break from tradition here. But it's about a teen who is a folk singer, and he sort of has his first gig coming up, and he's trying to deal with that. And it's got a very good cast. Off the top of my head, I can only remember Jason Schwartzman is one of the voice actors, but I think Carl Weathers is one too.
Ooh.
So, yeah, a very interesting voice cast.
Well, what was the name of the game again? One more time?
The Artful Escape.
Okay. Next up, we will be playing the Artful Escape. I thought for a second there you were going to say 12 minutes, and I was going to be like, oh no.
Yeah, I also was worried about that.
Don't look that up, Pete.
I will not. There was another sort of crazy shooting game I was thinking about picking.
What the hell? We've got Michael Johnson, Caroline Kinley, Lena Headey, Jason Schwartzman, Mark Strong. Mark Strong, I believe, of Secession fame now, and Carl Weathers.
I know. It's a very
So
intense
Lena
voice cast.
Headey, as in that's
Game of Thrones,
Cersei,
Lena Headey.
right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, this is Annapurna Interactive. That makes sense. Because Annapurna has a movie division. They
Okay.
also made 12 minutes.
Checks out.
Oh.
All right. Well, thank you, M.
Thank you. I might have to go back and play Psychonauts 1, or at least listen
Yes.
to our show about it.
Play it. Play it.
Okay. All right.
Jesus.
All
I'll
right.
show you how to play that game.
I'll play it on stream.
It's so good. Pete, thank you.
Yeah, no, always a pleasure to revisit the Psychonauts universe. I look forward to doing it again in my mid-50s.
Oh, God.
Now Gino's traumatized.
Thank you, Noelle, for joining.
Thanks, y'all. It's been fun.
Reminder, you can get in touch with the show at Deep Listens Pod on Twitter, deeplistens.libsyn.com. We have our comment sections and deeplistenspodcast at gmail.com. You can also support the show on patreon.com/deeplistens. Till next time, peace!